My video for October the 8th, 2018, video number 2869, is entitled, Duality is the Reality We Must Deal With. Once again, I received a message informing me that this world is just an illusion, since atoms are mostly empty space. There is no physical matter, they say. While that may be an adequate scientific explanation, it does nothing to remove or erase human experience. I can do the tapping procedure recommended by a good friend, and I can certainly feel the slaps on my skin. I also felt it when I broke both bones, first in my right arm, then later in my right leg. In the latter, I can still feel where the break was, and I can still see the bruising that resulted from my stroke, in which the right side of my body was temporarily paralyzed. The illusion is certainly both persistent and convincing, if nothing else. The political aspects are equally convincing for people like me who have long sought manifestation of the kingdom of heaven right here on this planet. Of course, dualism and duality are not the same thing. Dualism promotes conflict of opposites in many ways, even the battle of the sexes. Obviously, when these opposites clash, problems are created. These are the issues we must deal with, in my opinion, like it or not. I admit I get a little bit annoyed by people who persist in trying to convince me that because the world is just an illusion, by addressing the issues created by the illusion, we are only furthering the problem. We are not correcting anything. There is this metaphysical teaching or so-called spiritual teaching that says what we focus on expands and what we ignore goes away. Well, that's simply not the reality of human experience. If we, again, how many times do I have to keep saying this? If we ignore the symptoms that are given to us as warning signs, we end up in a situation that can be far worse than if we had addressed the symptoms early on. Now, I don't believe that modern medicine, which treats symptoms, is the solution. We must find the cause and treat the cause. And only when the cause is corrected, oftentimes the cause is just simply getting it wrong and not doing it the right way, things the right way. In other words, not loving, not being kind, not being considerate of others. That is the wrong way to deal, continually trying to create conflict, continually trying to pursue animosity and try to make the other person wrong. It's not about making somebody wrong. It is about dealing with issues and not being in denial. Denial is a problem. And that is the whole thing behind this false spirituality, this false metaphysics that say what we resist persists. No. If we correct the problem, it will not persist. But if we ignore it, it not only can persist, it can kill us if it's a disease. And I've watched that happen in the life of a fairly close friend who didn't treat the symptoms, didn't address the issues that he was facing, and ended up having cancer eat his body away. And of course, he died, not even as an old man, as a young man who had lived a decent life. I think I just talked about that in a recent video. And then it comes up yet again. You know, what's it going to take for us to understand that this 3D world, whatever label you want to put on it, an illusion or whatever, this 3D world is the hand we've been dealt. These are the cards that we have. Okay? We can deal with the issues that are presented by this world, or we can pretend they don't exist and go away somewhere, but that doesn't solve the problem. Death doesn't solve the problem if we just keep coming back and reincarnating over and over again, and we forget things that we learned the previous time around. It doesn't matter if we have past life regressions and can see things and say, oh, that was me. Well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. That's not the point. The point is, everything is generally, for most people, erased, and we have no recollection, whether there's a past life regression or not. There's no recollection of any lessons that we needed to learn and did or didn't learn. We'd still come back and we repeat from a blank slate. But it's not really a blank slate if reincarnation is true. I believe it is, but I don't know that. I don't know. I've had past life recalls, if you will, that seemed real, as I've said in other videos. Were they real? Well, they seemed like I had an identification with them at the very least. I can't prove one way or another whether they're real. I can't prove a lot of things, neither can you. We can believe, but believe has a lie in the middle of it. We believe a lot of things that simply do not promote loving, peaceful relationships as humans living on planet Earth. And that's where the problem is, and that's where the problem needs to be addressed. It's not about taking us to some other place. It's about fixing this place, the planet that we live on. And while that frustrates a lot of my metaphysical friends, I cannot simply buy into the ignorance, that is, the ignoring of the issues. I see a world that has been enslaved by forces that can only be considered dark forces, and I am not one with them. I am not part of that. I have lived my whole life blowing the whistle, trying to expose the corruption so that we can fix it, not just so that we know it's there. It's obvious that it's there to anybody with half a brain. We need to repair something. Something needs to be fixed. And that's why I continue to pray. Even though my faith has been somewhat shattered by revelations that the Bible probably wasn't the word of some inspired, loving being called God. Even though I realize that that's probably not true, that the God of the Bible was jealous and was wrathful and had all sorts of bad characteristics and didn't want any other gods worshipped but that God. Well, that's insanity. That's insanity. I want to get the lessons for myself learned that from the dualism that I've had to experience, the conflicts that are artificially created because we believe lies. And that's the root of all dualism. All dualism stems from a lie that opposites have to clash. No, they don't. Opposites were made to dance. And I look forward to the time when we can learn that dance as human beings and live in peace one with another on planet Earth, regardless of politics and religion. Thank you, folks, for listening, and namaste.